Hey, it's Debbie Potts. I want to dive into hormones. We're talking a lot about hormones on the podcast, perimenopause, postmenopause, male athletes as well as females. Hormones. We need the right amount of hormones, keep it all in balance. We want to avoid the domino effect of excess stress, chronic stress that depletes the body system, creating a whole domino effect of issues as I had happen to me. And now it's my purpose in life to help you, the high performer, the athlete that tends to do too much of everything, and just those that are type A, triple A, to know when to take a moment to pause, push alternate control delete on your computer system, but to your own body's operating system. I know many of you are similar to the old me that tend to wake up early and go nonstop until the day is over, maybe too long. And I used to do that. Then I hit my adrenal exhaustion, so to speak. We'll go over that in many episodes. I'm going to dive into this a little bit more. But I want you to know in advance, as Medicine 3.0, Peter Attia talks about, be preventative. Let's not wait until we are broken down from the inside out, as I had happened to me 10 years ago. And I want you to know the red flags when you need to go, oh, I need to back off. I need to push pause, control, alternate, delete my computer operating system of my own body and shift, course correct what I'm doing. We need to know those red flags when you are doing too much, which is why I often say more is not better. Less is sometimes more. What is that right balance, that right amount of acute stressor that's going to give you positive benefits? We don't want this nonstop chronic stress. As I explain in my book, Life is Not a Race, It is a Journey. But it's chronic stress is kind of like the faucet. You have a leak in your hose or leaky faucet that it keeps dripping and it doesn't turn on, turn off. You're just constantly dripping that cortisol. What does that all mean? Well, let's go into me a little bit more, just briefly. Repair, rebuild, recalibrate. This is what we do as FDN practitioners. We resolve metabolic chaos by transforming the whole you. My focus is the high performers, the endurance athletes, as myself, but you can be anyone that's struggling to get the desired results with what you are doing right now. You think you're doing all the right things, but you still feel like crap. You still can't lose weight. You still can't get recovery and bounce back from those workouts. You can't get stronger. You're not getting faster. You feel like you're doing everything, but you just have metabolic chaos going on. We need to identify what your internal sources of chronic stress are with running functional lab testing. We look at your history. I look at what you have been doing, what's working, what's not working. What is your nutrition like? Sleep, stress management, your lifestyle, your main health concerns. Now, if you want to avoid this burnout and breakdown, knowing those red flags, let's not wait until you're having issues and seeing 8 to 10 different doctors as myself, trying to get the results. Let's start taking action now. Don't wait until you have problems. This is what all of you are doing. You come often when you already have all these issues as metabolic chaos. Now, let me talk about steroid hormones because a lot of people were talking, my client and I, about cholesterol, and people are scared of cholesterol. And I just want to show you your sex hormones are derived from cholesterol. So if you look at the pathways, steroid hormones, first on the list here, cholesterol, pregnenolone goes to progesterone. And then we've got this other pathway, pregnenolone to DHEA, and going down to testosterone, estrogen. So you can see these pathways, how we make hormones. You can see what turns them up or down. And this is what we want to look at when we do hormone testing. Why people cannot just, should not, you can, but you should not just look at blood chemistry work. Your doctor is often not testing everything we want to know. So usually I have to have clients. You can go here yourself, altalabs.com, Debbie Potts Coaching, and you can get all these lab tests that your doctor's not testing for you, but don't self-diagnose. We don't diagnose either. We look at all your ranges in optimal, not normal. And we want to look at insulin markers. You can look at APOB and all these markers we're looking at. And a big area people are concerned about is cholesterol. So you can look at your markers, APOB. There's different ones you can get for so little, $40. You can get a whole advanced lipid panel for $130, plus always 20% off coupon comes on here. So let's look at this advanced cholesterol panel. What do you really want to look at? Not cholesterol. What do you really want to look at? APOB. And that's something I did a blog on. You want to look at CRPs for inflammation. There's a lipid panel called Cardio IQ Lipid Panel, LP little a. And then other markers is they have this ion mobility, cardio IQ, LDL breakdown. Do not worry about just looking at your cholesterol. We want to look at other markers, advanced cholesterol panel, inflammatory marker panel, looking at why these are super essential to look at, as well as your insulin, vitamin D, magnesium, your omega-3 level. You want to look at the whole picture, okay? So if your doctor, I guarantee you, is not testing this, go look at this $164 plus 20% off when you have that pop up. Go to Alta Labs, Debbie Potts Coaching. You can get onto my page here. Check these out. This is something you can get done, fasted 12 hours, and really get the right amount. Preventative. Okay. And then we want to look at other tests to figure out what else is going on. So we want to look at cortisol, and I'm doing a few different series of interviews and podcasts that I'm doing by myself, solo rabbit holes on cholesterol. So more cholesterol you have higher than optimal can be related to obesity, metabolic syndrome, hypothyroidism, inflammation, cortisol resistance. So there's all sorts of different things, less cortisol. We want to look at all these markers, what impacts your hormones. Okay, so we want to work with a practitioner to really see what's going on. Measurable in urine, measurable in blood, or saliva. And this is Genova Diagnostics. We also want to look at a stool test. So we can go to Rupa Health and look at different markers as insulin test we want to look at. It's a GI map. We want to look at gut health, probiotics, prebiotics. Do you have inflammatory markers high on your blood chemistry? And want to look at what's going on inside. So I use Rupa Health and FDN practitioners. We also have a medical director program. We order different labs through there. So looking at root cause medicine is really helpful. And we want to look at what's causing some of this chronic stress that you don't know about. You might be eating correctly, low carb, no vegetables, seed oils, no processed foods, sugars. You are doing all the right things nutritionally to eat nutrient dense whole foods. But do you have high levels of stress? Do you have opposite of sedentary, you're exercising too much? And relating to that, maybe not able to sleep right. So chronic stress is a bidirectional communication between the brain and the gut, resulting in alterations in gut motility, enzyme secretion, changes in the composition of the gut microbiota. These disruptions can manifest symptoms as bloating, gas, irregular bowel movements. We want to talk in a lot of the episodes we've been talking about sleep. I've done a couple podcasts recently on sleep, tracking your sleep, knowing what works, what impacts your sleep. The importance of quality sleep should not be underestimated, this article says. The inadequate sleep affects energy levels, mood, and can disturb the balance of the gut microbiome. Studies have shown that sleep deprivation can alter diversity and abundance of the gut microbiome, as well as contributing to dysbiosis. Regular physical activity has shown to support diverse and healthy microbiome. But the bell curve we talk about, sedentary activity associated with negative effects of gut health, prolonged periods of sitting, lack of physical movement can compromise delicate balance of gut bacteria, but also too much exercise causes disruption. So we wanted to look at our nutrition. Are we supporting the gut? Are we taking L-glutamine, which I like S fuels for training long bike rides? It has glutamine in it, and their post-workout recovery whey shake with glutamine, I think, is really essential. Add glutamine as an athlete. If you are exercising a lot, glutamine and protecting that mucosal barrier. I also take colostrum and essential amino acids and omega-3 fatty acids. So there's some supplements I have clients you always need. They're kind of just ongoing maintenance unless you're eating a grass-fed, not grass-fed, wild-caught fish. If you're getting your omega-3s from sardines, anchovies, the smashed fish diet every day, which I do not. So then you don't need to supplement, but you do need to supplement if you're not able to get enough omega-3s in your diet. Natural anti-inflammatories help reduce gut inflammation, as well as probiotics, fermented foods. I occasionally make my super gut yogurt. It's fermented goat yogurt or not heavy cream, half and half. I make it and it's fermented for 38 hours. So if you have lactose issues, when you ferment it, William Davis, he has a super gut book and a podcast we did. And I did a few videos on this, making this super gut probiotic yogurt with L. reuteri and some other bacteria that we can get millions of trillions if we ferment it for 38 hours and it multiplies. So that's how I get probiotics in my diet through food that I'm making, fermentation of the yogurt. So it's not yogurt, it's just more of a little half a cup of probiotics. Now, that will help also getting zinc helps and vitamin D. Now, you can let me know what questions you have for your issues and hate issues, that word's bad, but areas of opportunity, what your signs and symptoms are. So if we know we're looking at cholesterol, going back to original point here, cholesterol makes all these sex hormones. So when you get a blood chemistry test, I look at that along with the Dutch hormone test, along with your GI test as Genova or GI map and food sensitivities. We can see, here's my cheat sheet in FDN practitioner world. Optimal range of cholesterol is maybe up to 240. If it is high though, if it's higher than this optimal range, because people are freaking out because you're eating red meat, saturated fat, eggs, egg yolks have cholesterol, but it's from your food. It's not cholesterol in your body that your liver is making too much of. It's not an issue. Remember, cholesterol we need to make these hormones. So if we go to cholesterol high, that can be a clue towards something else if it's higher or lower than that. So let's go through this list real quick. Low thyroid, chronic bacterial viral infections, H. pylori, for example, is pretty common. Adrenal dysfunction. Yes, cardiovascular disease is on there, but usually this isn't an issue if you look at a lot of the studies. Fatty liver, bile issues. So if your liver gallbladder is not functioning optimal level, that's where we need to look at. Insulin resistance, poor metabolism, utilization of fats. And then early stage of high blood sugar, hyperglycemia, diabetes, or metabolic syndrome, MS. But if it's low, oxidative stress could be a clue, heavy metal body burden. So we want to do an HTMA test, liver, bile dysfunction, malnutrition, manganese deficiency, hyperthyroidism, adrenal hyperfunction, autoimmune, and just not eating healthy fats, your low fat to no fat diet. If your cholesterol's too low, big red flag. So we want to make sure we're seeing patterns and we're really looking at more, is your triglyceride levels really high? Do we have any signs of inflammation? Is the CRP? So what we do as health investigators, we're not doctors and we're not diagnosing, but we're looking through a different lens, more of a holistic approach, looking at all these markers. Number one reason for low cholesterol is liver bile congestion. If you don't have enough bile production, or if you don't have a gallbladder, which I keep getting clients that their gallbladder's been taken out, it's an organ, but their diet of no fat caused probably the big cause of gallbladder congestion because it's just sitting there. You're not using bile to help break down fat. So look at the gallbladder diet, doctor. She's got good information. So triglycerides, we look at high and low. I look at blood chemistry panels, look at other considerations, looking at triglyceride to HDL ratio, insulin resistance. So we're looking at this whole picture. Even HDL, if it's super high, that's not ideal. Could be autoimmune. So I can't show you more than that, but that's my cheat sheet. Now let's look at your genetics. Here's my genetic report from March. And here, what we want to do is look at your lipids. Carb-related labs are A1C, glucose, HOMO-IR, insulin resistance, triglycerides, HDL. So you want to look at, am I eating the right foods for my body? Fat intolerance. There's also fat, saturated fat. So if I have a lot of these orange ones, like I have FTOs, all four of them. I also think of those as obesity genes. My APO, APA2, APO3 is good, but this PPAR alpha and PPAR gamma, we hear a lot about. So I have a couple of these genetic SNPs I need to be aware of my saturated fat tolerance levels. Now, I like to look at genetics. You can order this through me if you want to get your own clarity report. It is $297. So just email me. I have to pay for it directly. So you need to pay me first. But this is what you'll get, this huge report. And this is 46 pages. Now I just retested after changing some things. I tried to limit some saturated fat, see if that makes a difference. And I was taking berberine to help with some areas of my glucose A1C being a little higher. So my lipids, I want to show you, total cholesterol is higher, but I'm not worried. It's not over 240. And then let's see if we go and compare this page 27. If I go here, 27, oops, different page. Now 29 on this one. So you can see my lipids and inflammation in March. I did bring my total cholesterol down, but that's not my concern. It's more looking at LP little a, LDL, triglycerides are good, CRP 0.15, 0.15 last time, APOB is 89, APOB 72. So I want that APOB, according to Peter Attia, to be under, I think he says around 30. So I save that Peter Attia, some guy pursue performance, wrote this nice handy chart you can look at. What do I want to look at for my, if you're afraid of cholesterol, we want to look at APOB, recommended age, start testing around 30, LP little a, and you want to be, in Peter Attia's, to be really strict is 20 to 30, get under 60. So mine's still a little bit high. So I need to continue working on omega-3 fatty acids, maybe a little more. My inflammation's good. So I'm just kind of tweaking things. And because of my genetic markers of saturated fat, even though people will argue about this, but maybe I need to limit saturated fats as bacon and having too much bacon fat was my thing. I was trying to change a little bit, see if that changes my lipid profile. Because I'm not really caring for myself personally. Total cholesterol is 275. Now it's down to 227. And then I'll retest. You should get your blood test, by the way, like every 4 months. Don't wait once a year. That's ridiculous. I don't know why we were ever taught that. So I'm really looking at preventative. So insulin markers, this is where I have to be careful on carbohydrates and avoiding crappy food for everyone, but I'm more middle of the road for carb tolerance. Fasting glucose is always 90 for me in every test. My glucose is not my concern, around 90, but 2.9 for insulin is so much better than my last lab. And I think it's taken that berberine, and then my homocysteine came down too. So let's scroll down. Last test. So fasting insulin was 4.3. This time it was 2.9. So that's what I want to get down, insulin. And then the HOMA IR, 0.96. I got it down to 0.64. Ferritin, that's my iron levels. I need more iron. So I need to go back on taking my organ capsules from Body Health. I take a few times a week, but I ran out of them. And then A1C, we want this to be a little lower. So that's what I was 5.7. But what do we say in my world in functional medicine when I go through your cheat sheet? Homocysteine, we want 6 to 7.2. That's more relationship to B vitamins for most of us. But insulin should be between 1 and 5. Insulin resistance is when the pancreas produces more and more insulin to overcome the resistance. When the pancreas can no longer produce enough for the body's demands, then blood sugar glucose rises. So insulin is needed to be tested before to be preventative of type 2 diabetes. Hypoglycemia, too much insulin, the blood sugar decreases. So you don't know what's going on if you are pre-diabetic, type 2 diabetes, unless you're testing your insulin. So we want to get pre-diabetes markers. That's going to be A1C 5.7 to 6.4. If your glucose is 100, 125. Hypoglycemic is low glucose, low A1C, low LDH. Metabolic syndrome is high cholesterol, high triglycerides, low HDL, high insulin, high glucose, and high A1C. So we want to look at this, but we want to correlate with other labs to get the whole picture. We don't treat the lab result by itself and say, this is low, take this for that. That's more functional medicine. People do that, but I still think we need to look at all this together. I wanted to show you A1C. A1C here should be 4.5 to 5.2, but Dr. William Davis wants you under 5%. If you're over 5% A1C, that can be a relationship to other markers, looking at metabolic syndrome, pre-diabetes, diabetes, and too low is not good either, more hypoglycemic. So we want to look at that with your adrenal markers, organic acids test, look at your micronutrients as your chromium, biotin, B, lipoic acid. So this is what we do as FDN practitioner. This is why it's super fun to me to put all this together. So then if I can see your genetics, we can see, okay, do you have all the obesity genes as me, these FTO genes? My PPAR gamma is good in the green, but this is why I really like on Full Script, we have what Sean Wells suggested, taking the type of berberine that's more absorbable in the body. And then we want to look at your inflammation genetics in your labs together, because chronic low-grade inflammation is a root cause of cardiovascular disease, Alzheimer's, cancer, autoimmune. Chronic inflammation can be treated with supplements, anti-inflammatory diet, sleep, healthy exercise, but most important action is to know the source. There's always more than one because everything's connected. So microbiome testing we want to do for sure. Do you have a leaky gut? I guarantee that you have a leaky gut. All of us do, especially if you exercise, especially if you have chronic stress. Overtraining, too much exercise, and not enough recovery can be a source of inflammation. Inflammatory diet, poor sleep, insulin resistance, higher cholesterol is on their list, chronic infections. So we want to look at your inflammation, look at the CRP, they look at the AG ratio, and then look at your genetics on my clarity report through Wild Health Precision Medicine. So CRP, I have 2 risk alleles for this. So the C-reactive protein can increase inflammation after intense exercise. So don't get your blood chemistry panel tested after you exercise, because this will give you increased level that will be incorrect. We also want to look at your GSTP1. I had one risk allele that can be related to vitamin E and increased inflammation. So that's the clarity report. Super interesting to me. It looks at wild health, puts this together. You can look at the true diagnostics, how well we age, and then it puts that together too. If we get the other, I need DHA, my hormones to get on here. But looking at your risk factors. So again, it's medicine 3.0. How's my metabolism? I've got a mixture. I have to work hard for my metabolism. Fasting or not fasting, a 12-hour feeding window is what we suggest for everyone. That should be normal. It's not fasting. That's just normal eating window, 12 and 12. Intermittent fasting is more 16-8 window or longer. And some people do a longer fast. You're restricting calories like a fasting mimicking diet 1 to 5 days. But that's if you're not exercising. I think you need to match your fasting if you're not when you're not exercising, just walking and doing low intensity. So this is the clarity report, and then the summary is on this last page, 38 for me. And you can see all my hormones. My T3 is 2.2. And I just shared a video yesterday on my Instagram that I am taking T3. I just picked it up yesterday. So we'll see if it changes. But optimal range 3.4 to 4.4. The doctor didn't list that range. Whoops, here I am, wrong page. So let's get rid of my old test. I have on this range, they want 2 to 4.0. That is not what we suggest. FDN, we look at 3.4 to 4.4 on the T3. Now remember, side note, if you have thyroid issues, according to your doctor, your TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, is high or low, that gives us clues. There's different patterns you need to look at. I guarantee you, you're not resolving why your thyroid is low. Conversion issues. Look at my cheat sheet. Again, probably not supposed to be showing this, but T4 converted to T3, 20% in the gut. So if you have a gut bacteria, pathogen issues, leaky gut, mucosal damage, if you're celiac, you're probably not converting your T4 to T3. If you have a liver congestion issue, 60% of T4, T3 occurs in the liver. So thyroid T4 is inactive. What we use is T3. We need that conversion. So if you're not looking at your full thyroid panel, T4 to T3, we are not getting the right information to see what pattern do we have and correlate that with your gut test, with your Dutch test, with your micronutrient, looking at your iodine, organic acids, HTMA heavy metal tests. We want to look at all these together. So it depends on your budget, how much you want to spend on labs, but for sure, I want to see your gut test. Now, what markers on here are related to homocysteine, methylation cycle, folate, I'm low, iron, I'm low, so I know I need to get more organ capsules. I'm not eating liver, but organ meat would be good if you do that. Insulin resistance, I need to keep my eye on. So I'm going to keep doing this test every 4 months. Vitamin micronutrients, again, ferritin's 29. I'm pretty anemic. So big thing, I need to do more vitamin iron, vitamin meat, iron level. And my vitamin D is still too low, and I've been taking it. And so my conversion of D3, make sure I have K2 with it, make sure my magnesium is up. So this is why we need to look at the whole picture, because it's not that, all right, I'm taking vitamin D, it's still low, but why am I not converting that D to be higher? So I'm outside swimming in a 2-piece swimsuit in San Diego. Why is my vitamin D still low? I have to look at the genetics on that, right? So that is a clarity report. I just wanted to give you a glimpse, and then we'll continue on the next episode going to the adrenals, the role of the low cortisol, high cortisol, and then looking at your Dutch test. This is my test from 4 years ago, and I'm sure my estrogen is even getting lower as I get older, but the testosterone we want to see in this optimal window. My DHA, I want to get up higher. So taking DHA is beneficial for me. And going back to this steroid hormone chart, that remember that DHA can help boost your hormone levels as well. I'm looking at DHA is made in your adrenals. So we want to make sure that adrenal gland itself is functioning optimal level to make cortisol, DHA. And then we want to look at your patterns of cortisol versus cortisone and melatonin, looking at this waking morning, afternoon, and night, how we want to be in this range. So I'm not low as I used to be when I hit adrenal exhaustion, but I probably need why I need to swim at lunchtime because I get really tired. So I need some exercise at noon. If it's going for a walk, if it's doing master swimming, but nighttime, I don't want to raise my cortisol. It's a little, it should be lower. It's in that range. I don't want to do anything to move it too high. So I feel good in the morning. Upon waking is this morning level. So I feel pretty good there. And then this waking's more of a symbol of overnight. That's what we want to look at, the pattern of your free cortisol over 24 hours. So all these measurements together, your metabolized cortisol, this amount, and then we look at patterns to those. And then we look at all the markers and your estrogens, progesterone. We want to look at all these ranges. So this is why we want to get a Dutch test, genetics, blood chemistry, and put it all together and look at where should I be as a 50-year-old female. I want to be DHA levels higher. I'm at, what am I? 63 is really low. So I need to supplement. This is 4 years ago, so I need to retest. But where do I want to be at optimal level? How do I get that DHA up? Maybe I need to supplement for a little bit and looking at all that. So this is what is good to test and not guess. Figure out where we are. So this, remember, here is a great picture of stress. Hypothalamus talks to pituitary gland. Pituitary gland sends a CRH signal to pituitary gland to release hormones. Stress or inflammation causes the brain to release ACTH. This stimulates adrenals to make hormones. So see this chart and how the adrenal gland has different layers, cortex, and the DHA is made in that one layer, cortisol metabolism, and that's what we're looking at here. And cortisol is circulating free cortisol. So we're looking at cortisone versus cortisol, metabolize your DHA. So we want to look at all this together. Melatonin, you don't want too high or too low, and then see this pattern. And this test, I think it's about $300 when you order a Rupa with other labs. Also, we get to see, am I getting enough B vitamins, which may be deficient if high. So I've been needing methylated B12 and folate. You can see on my other labs. So we want to look at all this together. Okay, so that's the Dutch test. We want to look at, do we have signs of adrenal dysfunction? Are you getting enough protein, magnesium, vitamin C, selenium? Are you avoiding gluten, wheat, even wheat grass? A lot of people can't do gluten, but they can't do wheat. And if you know that wheat grass is in athletic greens and a lot of the different green drinks out there, that if you have wheat sensitivity, that might be causing inflammation. Make sure you're having iodine or iodine-rich foods, zinc. And so getting our supplements if needed, but ideally starting with food first, so nutrient dense. So you want to avoid wheat, rye, and other gluten-containing grains. Avoid caffeine if you have high cortisol. You want to avoid caffeine and high in sugar, soda. You want to avoid foods high in sugar and processed foods that have fillers, preservatives, nitrates, artificial colorings. So this is a great article, Women's Health Network, but for men too, including your protein, help that stabilizing effect on your blood sugar. This article is way off. Women need 60 to 70 total grams per day. That is so wrong. It's 1 gram of ideal pound of body weight for 1 gram of protein per day. So whatever you want to weigh, say your ideal body weight that you're comfortable in is 130 grams or 130 pounds, you need 130 grams of protein. Okay, so avoiding gluten and grains, wild rice, quinoa, buckwheat, amaranth. Take it out, see how you feel. Limiting caffeine, especially later in the day. You can look at your genetics for your metabolism of caffeine. So that's one article that I just like that infographic for you. I went over this the other day, the phases of adrenal dysfunction or HPA axis dysfunction. Dr. Jockers has a great article I can share with you. Dr. Datis, this website, he has amazing resources and book and certification courses. If you're a practitioner, he is actually up north of me, but this is a great program to learn more about the brain and hormones and autoimmune issues. So Dr. Datis, I would look at that. Okay. And then of course, Dr. Berg always has great articles. Think about the bottom line of adrenal fatigue. Adrenals sit on top of your kidneys, your adrenals. We want to look at your chronic stress. External stressors all accumulate, and then we have the hidden sources of internal stress. So let's wrap it up. Top 7 adrenal fatigue causes. We did this the other day. Chronic lack of sleep, too much caffeine, not enough exercise or too much exercise, chronic stress, or shock is the loss of a family member, trauma, low nutrients, refined carbs, alcohol, lack of sunshine, low stomach acid, phytic acid from grains, chronic pain and inflammation. If you have a chronic infection, that can be causing problems to your adrenal glands. And then menopause, perimenopause, we want to look at that we really need to manage our stress as our hormones get lower. And we talked about this the other day on my podcast with Karen, but just adrenal fatigue and menopause. Now, this side note, but look at the video here. Dr. Berg was just sharing, this is picture how he used to look. And that's, I think he was talking about high cortisol. So you get insulin up, high cortisol, high sugar, high insulin. Now, so much to talk about. Let me know what you want me to focus on because there's a lot of areas of chronic stress, HPA axis dysfunction for athletes, for perimenopause, postmenopause, overtraining, under recovery. So it's not just the food you're eating. We want to make sure we're getting nutrient dense foods. Carbohydrates are coming from real food, and then timing those carbohydrates around your workouts, stabilizing your blood sugar, getting your genetics, getting your gut test, Dutch test, and getting your genetics. So really looking at the signs and symptoms. That is all in my show notes here. The adrenal gland, cortisol, weight gain connection, the function of cortisol, lifestyle recommendations. I call the holistic method, looking at signs of cortisol if you have too much or too little of it. Fat storage, elevated cortisol can lead to fat storage, midsection, insulin resistance, promoting fat gain. So go to this link. I'll put this in the show notes. And then if you want to get this clarity report as mine and see where you are with all your labs, we have to do that separately. They're offering the clarity report to look at your genetics and you get this report. I will add a service if you want me to do your other markers and we'll put them in. They're not doing that anymore. Wild Health Clarity Report. Hopefully they changed their mind, but they got bought out and they're changing this format. But this is what I still want to do for you, but I'll do it how we do it as FDN practitioners, put it into this cheat sheet here. So you can look at your blood chemistry panel in Ulta Labs, or I order through Health. And then we put all that together into a protocol and figure out how to course correct. So Dutch test, this is my test. That's why I can show my test. I need to redo and put it all together. That's what I do with clients. We order the labs. While we finish the labs, we're waiting for the results. We're working on these lifestyle habits and making sure we're getting the right healthy fats and the proteins and ingredients to make your hormones. We're making sure we're lifting weights, not doing chronic cardio. We're looking at how to manage your cortisol with sleep, nutrition, adaptogens, magnesium. A lot of people don't take enough of, and avoid overtraining. Looking at your heart rate variability, getting more essential amino acids as body health. Perfect aminos or Keon. And how we have this domino effect, we'll go into next call on cortisol dysregulation and the domino effect of cortisol to your thyroid and sex hormones. So that was my rabbit hole today. I will let you go, but just message me your questions.